All right, also making news for you this morning, King Charles has announced he is coming to Australia. The monarch and Queen Camilla are set to make their way down under late next year in what would be the royal couple's first visit since 2018.
All right, let's bring in royal editor at the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers, live from East Sussex. Russell, good morning. What do we know about the reason behind the visit?
Well, morning to both of you. Well, first and foremost, not a moment too soon because, it has been a good few years since we've seen Charles and Camilla down under. I've been hoping to get down and see you guys for so long. And I suppose a few things have got in the way. We've obviously had the coronation. The government wanted him to try and get to see our nearest neighbours because of the hellscape that is Brexit here in the UK. But it's going to be the 150th anniversary of the New South Wales government, and there's a lot to look forward to. So I'm sure Charles and Camilla can't wait to get started.
Yeah, a bit of heat though, Russ, for the royals here in Australia. They haven't really come to visit all that much in the last few years. How do you think they'll be embraced?
Well, it's certainly interesting. I would have definitely thought that the King would have wanted to get out and hit the ground running as soon as he was in a top job. But as I said, a few things get in the way. They need to be invited first and foremost. Then the UK government needs to start putting things into place. And I suppose we want to come down when it's the good weather. Nobody wants to come over on an Aussie winter. It's bad enough over here at the moment for ourselves. So I think it will try and fit into place, sort of your spring, our winter, and hopefully. Would be a good reception.
Well, Russell, I think our winter is probably
still better than
your summer, to be honest. What is the tour going to look like? Do you reckon they're going to stay long?
Well, listen, I think it will be a decent hit because it's a couple of weeks at least. We've got the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting around that sort of October date. That'll be in Samoa. No doubt want to go over to New Zealand as well. So a big punchy tour, hopefully. So, it should be all-encompassing, I reckon.
Hey, notice this morning as well, Russell, that Prince Harry is set to head back to court. The High Court, a 3-day battle tomorrow. What's going on there?
Well, it seems, but though it's been about 3 days since he hasn't been in court. But this is not necessarily against a newspaper this time. It is about his case with the UK government. He's in the High Court. This case is about his security and moaning about the fact that when they left the royal family, that he had his security detail taken away. So interesting. I don't think Harry will be at this hearing, but 3 days in the High Court. We have seen him in the UK for some of these hearings. However, it could go either way, this one, and whilst the government have said he doesn't really have a leg to stand on in terms of the security, I'm sure there might be a bit of leeway for him to turn the screw with the royal family down the line.
The other thing that we've been seeing this morning is that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle could soon be stripped of their royal titles. Is that true?
Well, again, this is interesting. What would we call them? I'm sure there's a few names floating around. But the issue here for Harry and Meghan is because not they've made some enemies within the royal family, but the parliamentarians here in the UK government are sort of trying to band together and try and change the legislation to have their Duke and Duchess titles taken away from them. However, this needs not only Parliament to agree to it, but the King as well. And I think that, Charles is trying to keep the family on sort of a cordial standpoint at the moment, regardless of this, the book that's come out and the conversations that have been had with Harry and Meghan over the last couple of years. The King is trying to keep things in order. So maybe not just yet.
Oh, so we can't expect to see Harry and Meg's turn up at Christmas this year?
Listen, anything can happen. That's what always say in Royal Land, and the last couple of weeks have shown that. But possibly a situation could happen. Maybe the Waleses will go to the Middletons and Harry and Meghan will get a call. So listen, never say never.
Ooh, watch this space. Yes. All right, thank you, Russell.
Know who you're breaking into.
Don't go near that house again.
All right, Australia is getting ready to roll out the royal red carpet for the King and Queen, who we understand are planning to visit, but, don't get it out too soon. It's maybe a little bit later next year.
OK, let's bring in... Don't get what out. Let's bring in former Palace Press Secretary Dickie Arbiter live from London. I think he's talking about the red carpet, Dickie. What do we know about the King's visit?
Well, quite frankly, we don't know anything at the moment. It's speculation. It's appearing in all the Australian newspapers. I said during the coronation coverage earlier this year that I thought the most appropriate time for him to visit and the Queen to visit would be around the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa, to make it one big trip. So to go to Australia and New Zealand first, then to Fiji and then on to Samoa. Now, the problem is you've got to find a big window because The King's done 3 state visits this year. He's done Germany, he's done France, and he's done Kenya. He's flown in and out in 3 days. You can't do 3 days in Australia. I remember I was with the Queen at the bicentennial in '88, all those years ago. We did 3.5 weeks. So it's got to be a substantial visit, and it's something that Prime Minister Albanese has got to get to grips with, decide when it's going to happen. My guess is before Samoa, so that he can go to Samoa and grandstand with the political leaders from the Commonwealth countries before he calls an election sometime by the end of this year, next year, I mean, or the beginning of 25.
It's got to be a substantial visit, Dickie, as you say, but we're an important part of the Commonwealth. A lot of people were expecting the King to get here sooner. This will be the first time he's coming since taking the throne, so it will be an important visit.
It'll be a very important visit, but I can understand the feeling in Australia that he hasn't been. But he can't just drop in. He's got to have an invitation. And as far as I'm aware, Albanese hasn't issued an invitation yet. And it's as simple as that. It probably sounds a bit off that he can't just arrive, but, you know, he might be head of state of Australia, but he can't just drop in. So Prime Minister Albanese's got to get his act together, get an invitation to Buckingham Palace, and then they'll make a joint announcement at the same time that the visit will take place. But my guess is, you know, it's a long way off from October next year. Right. And I would have thought sort of early next year there'll be an announcement that the visit's going to take place.
You know, recent royal visits haven't all gone terribly smoothly. There have been some pretty frosty receptions in some parts. How do you think it would go here in Australia?
Australians are very polite. That's my experience when it comes to royal visits. And I think they will give the King and the Queen a good welcome. Yes, there'll be the dissenters, because there is a group in Australia who like the idea of a republic, want an Australian head of state. Now, come on, you've got a de facto head of state because he's called the Governor-General, and he is an Australian. But they want, presumably, they want a president, and they want to choose the president, which is why the '99 referendum failed, because it was left to the government to choose a president and not the people, and the people wanted that choice to be theirs. So I think they'll get a respectful reception from Australians. As I say, there will be the dissenters, but then you get that everywhere, even here in the UK and in countries where the King has gone. In Germany, Germany was a tumultuous welcome, as was France. You know, France got rid of their monarchy 250 years ago.
Famously.
And yet you had people in the crowd saying, "Vive le roi." You know, God save the King, which is quite something. I don't think it's going to happen in Australia, but he'll get a good welcome.
Yeah, okay.
We'll hide all the guillotines too, just to make him feel more safe. Dickie, always good to see you, and the gauntlet has been thrown there to the Prime Minister from Dickie Arbiter.
He does have a bit on in his defence. Thank you, Dickie.
Thanks, Dickie.
See you soon. Take care.
Queen Camilla are coming down under, according to an exclusive report in The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald, saying the monarch is planning his first trip to Australia since becoming king. Live now to 9 Europe correspondent Edward Godfrey in London. Edward, better late than never, I suppose. Do we know when the visit will take place?
Well, we have a likely date. It's understood King Charles and Queen Camilla are planning a royal trip to Australia next year in October. This has come from a former diplomat who's been in touch with the monarch and spoke to 9 newspapers on the condition of anonymity. It would be Charles's first visit as monarch and his first visit to Australia since 2018. It's expected to coincide with the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting held in Samoa beginning on October 21st. It's likely the royal couple would also visit New Zealand, and there is speculation they may attend the Melbourne Cup or the King Charles Stakes. Now, this will be considered a test of his popularity in Australia and that of support for the monarchy in 2024 following the Queen's death. Charles has strong ties with Australia. He attended Geelong Grammar as part of his schooling as a teenager. Now, Buckingham Palace has not confirmed the trip at this stage, but there has been strong belief he would visit Australia in 2024.
All right, thanks, Edward.